Yes, hi. Thanks for coming out today. Can everybody hear me? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Awesome. Great. Well, I cover politics at the Post and Courier, like my boss said, and today was a very, very, very dramatic news day. It was one that people have been probably waiting for a lot in Washington. Definitely people have been waiting for here in the Low Country. If you didn't know, the Muller Report is out. It is public. And it is slightly redacted. Joe, slightly redacted. Joe, if you don't mind, you have not issued a comment yet on the Muller Report. Why is that? What are your comments about the Muller Report?
Yeah, we've had a long day, as long as everyone else here. Let me first of all say thank you to everyone who came out here today. To everybody who changed their schedule around to come out here and drink beer. Really appreciate the sacrifice you all made to come out here and have pints with us and actually enjoy some of the politics. And thank you for the owner for hosting us and for the container bar. This is great. I will come back time and time again. Very nice place. Our day started off very early, and we've been turning around with city and county officials talking about the infrastructure needs here in Charleston. And that's kind of like in line with everything we've been saying and everything we've been doing. You know, we didn't start this campaign out simply just running an anti-Trump campaign. We started that campaign running on low country issues. And so when we're back in district, those are the issues that we focus on, whether it be flooding, whether it be infrastructure, things that people talk about at their kitchen tables. Now, mind you, that report just came out this morning. And it's a few hundred pages with no pictures, so it will take me a little bit to go through, and it's something that I would like to personally go through as well. What's that? And it's something I would like to spend some time on reading and digesting. But I think it's, you know, I don't want to just simply jump to conclusions based upon the summaries we read on Facebook or Twitter. I think this is, you know, it's a serious issue. It's a serious debate we're having, and I'd just like the time to properly digest everything.
Well, we know you're not a stranger to reading hundreds of pages of legislation. You did that when you were running for Congress. You read the entire, what was it, the healthcare bill? Right? That was it?
Yeah, that was before I had a kid, too. Yeah, we read the entire healthcare bill on Twitter and on Facebook, I think. So then that was probably a lot more dry than what the Muller Report would be. But yeah, our intention is to read the entire thing, though.
Well, we'll certainly be looking for comment from you from that. Obviously, we here in South Carolina, we have a lot of big political players. We've got a lot of Republicans in office. You know, Senator Graham, who's very vocal, and on the Senate Judiciary Committee, we've got Senator Tim Scott. We've also got, you know, Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, who was also vocal today. He was a little bit displeased with how the report was rolled out today, but we will hold you to it. We want to hear what you have to say. More so, though, shifting to life in Congress right now, you're 100 days into it. What's been the biggest learning curve for you so far? Because you have no political experience. This is your first rodeo.
Thanks for highlighting lack of political experience, Caitlin.
I'm here for you.
I appreciate that. You know, it's been a whirlwind. It has. It's been, you know, they use the term drinking from a fire hose, and I get so sick and tired of hearing that. But there's no more accurate description of what goes on up there. We started very early to put together a great staff. You know, people we can be proud of, and then started to make connections up there in D.C., you know, forge relationships with other members. And we started to focus on the same issues that we ran on, and we're trying to stay focused on those issues and, you know, find our way around as well. But we're taking on all that while at the same time balancing, you know, coming back here in district every chance we can, every weekend. And then now we're in for in-district work period. So we're finding it, you know, we're getting settled in very well and finding our way around and building good relationships. And I feel like we're making a lot for the first 100 days. And we described, if you all have not signed up for our newsletter, if you go to our website, sign up for that. It's the best way to keep another newsletter plug there. You didn't sign up for Palmetto Politics yet either. No, I'd say sign up for that newsletter because you can get a better idea on everything we're doing every single week. We want to be as transparent as possible and let you all know what exactly we're working on. Whether it be, 1 week we're closing the Charleston loophole, next week we're introducing the ban on offshore drilling. So every week I think it's important that you all are reminded what exactly your representative is doing up there and the votes that they're taking. So we want to make that as clear as possible.
Does Nancy Pelosi even know your name? She does. How? Tell us about your interactions with her.
Yeah. Well, she understands what's important for the first district in the sense that she understands, it was our bill that we introduced to ban offshore drilling, that it's important for South Carolina, for the first congressional district, and I think it's important to note that we introduced a ban the very first full week we were up in Congress, and there were about a dozen or so other bills that were introduced, and out of 435 districts, it's our bill that will be marked up eventually, and our bill that will be brought to the House floor. And I think the leadership in the House recognizes that we've proven our leadership on this issue. We've been out front on this and been vocal. Sometimes been blasting air horns to get the point across, because that's what it takes sometimes. You have to get loud. And leadership has recognized that, and so we've taken the reins on that issue, and we're looking to bring that home here sometime this year.
I got one more. There is so much pressure now to raise money. We saw your campaign report this week. It looked to be about $600,000 you've gotten in the last 3 months. Talk about some of the pressure that are on you, and how much of your day and time and week is dedicated to making. I'm asking how much time and how much of his day, his weeks, his months is now being taken over by fundraising, which is the big pressure that comes from the top down.
I think the pressure is on us, obviously, to do the work that we were sent up to Congress to do. And listen, fundraising is a reality of it, and I hate the system that we have to raise money to go up on TV and talk to voters. And that's a big reason why I co-sponsored HR 1, to get dark money out of politics. And I have been very clear on my issues and about being responsive to the people. And that's why we took a pledge early on not to accept any corporate PAC dollars, and we haven't. And it's not her. Caitlin, you wrote a story today in today's paper talking about how us sending money back, and when you're getting checks for $2,000, $1,000 checks rolling in from PACs, and we have to send those on back, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do because we work for the people, and that's something we're going to continue to do as well. But yeah, you're right, Skylar. We are in a hotly contested district. It is one that probably not many people saw changing. Very few people thought we could win this district. There was my mom, and my wife was on the fence about it, I think. And we recognize Amanda over there in the corner hiding from everyone. But it is unfortunate that how much money does go in these elections. But I think by staying true to yourself and staying true to your district and your constituents, making a promise to them not to take any corporate PAC money, staying to that even when it hurts the bank account, because I think it's the right thing to do.
Quick follow-up about this reality of fundraising and having to send money back because of a pledge you made. What is it like when lobbyists approach you and have to sit down with you one-on-one and are making their spiel and their pitch? What is that like for you? How do you navigate that?
Lobbyists are people with 2 eyes and 2 ears too. They're all it's I don't treat people any differently, no matter I don't treat people differently is the bottom line. I think that we have lobbyists that come in to talk about school systems. We have lobbyists that come in, talk about nonprofits. All different types of causes that probably many of us in here would agree about. So I think it's important to, if people are coming up from our district and our constituents, we make it our best effort to carve out time for them. There are a lot of people, our time is limited up there in DC, so there are a lot of people we cannot see. We try to allocate, all of our time to people that come up from our district and try to make time out for them. So, but, we have a great staff that handles the schedule and handles the calendar, and like I said, we just try to give as much attention to the people who represent our district and the interest of our district, whoever they be.
Now that you've been up in Washington for 100 days plus, one other campaign promise comes to mind for me. You had mentioned that you did not want to serve any more than 3 terms in office, correct? Just double checking myself here. No more than 3 terms. Now that you've gotten your feet wet, you're learning about the process, seeing how things are done, do you think that that's realistically enough time to get substantial legislation done, given how hyper-partisan we've already seen this Congress being and resulting in gridlock?
Well, I think you can, that question can be answered pretty easily. In the first 100 days, and we talked about closing the Charleston loophole, and we did it. We closed the Charleston loophole in the House in the first 100 days and kicked it over to the Senate. Oftentimes the idea is, well, you're coming in as a freshman member and you may not have much to pull and you have to work yourself up. I think that's the old ideological way of thinking. And that can be countered by the fact that, like I said, out of all the bills that were introduced to ban offshore drilling, the 1st Congressional District is leading the charge on that. They're the ones out front. They've seen us champion that issue, and so we didn't have to serve 15 terms to be able to get our hands on that bill and be able to introduce that. So I think there's a lot of things that we get done, and I came out of the gates telling you I wasn't a career politician. I didn't want to become one, and I wanted to serve the people, and those are promises I intend to keep.
Everything you said reminds me of a politician that was there before you. I think his name was Mark Sanford. How much talk did you have with Mark during the campaign when things were drifting the way that they were, and how much advice did you get from him after winning the election?
I had a lot more conversation with Mark after the campaign, and he was very helpful in making this transition. Actually, we hired some of his staff too. Brought them on to help our office transition, and he was very helpful in making that transition. He was upfront about that, saying that I'm going to make it be as seamless as possible. And he provided a lot of guidance after the campaign and how to do the job. And on a personal level, it's a strain on the family. It's a strain on your time back home. So he provides some good advice on navigating some of those treacherous waters, and was helpful in this transition. So I value his feedback on that.
What in the learning curve have you picked up that you haven't told anyone yet about how crazy it can be in Congress, getting up too early, bumping into people you don't know? What's the thing about the learning curve you have never told anyone?
I don't know. It's such a loaded question here. Never been asked that before. I think the most valuable time's in the morning. I think that's true even before being elected to Congress. That the morning time, and that's something my dad taught me too. The morning time is really the only time you have absolutely to yourself. So if you're looking to make anything personal, whether it be working out, whether it be writing, whether it be reading, carving out a little bit of time for yourself. And it's the same thing for each of you all, because you turn on the TV, you turn on your phone, and all of a sudden you start getting consumed by the needs of the day. So, continuing to make time, in the morning or for yourself, basically.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Thank you guys for sticking around and bearing with us. This is no different than when we pick up the phone and call you and ask questions. So it's actually nice that you guys can see us doing this work, because we do it day in and day out. But one other thing that's been a huge time consumer for us as political reporters right now in South Carolina is 2020. We've got tons of Democratic presidential candidates swinging through this state day in, day out, every weekend, every day we're getting emails from them. And now you, in your, election, first Democrat elected to the 1st Congressional District in 40 years. now that you've done something that many people thought was impossible for a Democrat to do, I would imagine that 2020 candidates are reaching out to you in droves. Can you talk about how you're balancing that, given the nature of this district being more moderate, being more Republican-leaning than maybe some of your other Democratic colleagues?
Yeah, it's interesting that around presidential election time, everybody takes an interest in South Carolina again. So it's nice that we're back on the radar, and it's great that so many people are becoming more and more interested in what our needs are and what our families are talking about. We started to get calls. They've died down here a little bit here lately, but nearly every single presidential candidate has reached out in some form or fashion to talk about this district, South Carolina, and we try to give everyone the same information and talk to everybody the same. But and folks have asked if that's something I'm getting involved in. I don't know. It's April. We're not looking till the end of February for the primary, so we have some time. I will say though that I think it's a great opportunity for us to take this and use as a platform to talk about the issues that are important to us in the 1st Congressional District in South Carolina. And so it's not like I'm out there seeking somebody to endorse, but I'm using this microphone, not this microphone literally, but the other others, to talk about issues that are important to families here in South Carolina, and make sure that everybody who's running is in tune with that, and hoping somebody will embrace those. And also, just great tune. Add that to my playlist a little bit later too. Make sure. I think restoring civility to politics too is something that's lost, and having somebody who will do that, who will actually bring people together and give people a reason to vote for them, as opposed to just saying vote against this person. So I think showing people what the 1st District stands for, showing people what I stand for, showing people what the Low Country and South Carolina stands for. I think the more that we can do that, then hopefully the more we can channel this discussion into the needs of the 1st District and the needs of South Carolina.
Yeah. So you're not endorsing yet. It's early. Who seems to be the best listener?
Good question.
I think that's a question for y'all to answer, actually. Has anybody been to the presidential forums? Or raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Kimson.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I haven't been. I've seen some snippets in the news. I noticed that the issue of offshore drilling is leaking into the conversation. No pun intended. It was intended. 100%. So I don't have an answer to that yet. I think it just depends on, who's discussing the same issues that we're discussing.
Who are some of the Republicans you find yourself more willing to work with, and what are some of the Republican ideas that you're hearing up there that you would lend your name to, that you're hearing?
Well, Peter King was one that we co-sponsored a bill with, H.R. 1112, to close the Charleston loophole. There are a lot that deserves an applause. There are a lot of Republicans who are in the middle and near the middle, where you have a lot of common ground. And I think, as it relates to legislation and things advancing, finding those people who are willing to cross the aisle and agree with you, and realize that there is a strong currency in bipartisanship and working together during an election year, during an off year. And I think there's a lot of Republicans who are protective of our natural resources. Congressman Rooney down in Florida is a congressman that we co-sponsored a bill with, and the first bill we introduced to ban offshore drilling. So there are tons of Republicans who we're willing to work with and we're able to work with in different fashion. And I'll tell you, we were elected to this seat by a lot of Republicans, and some of whom are in this crowd tonight. And we don't forget that. And that's reflected in our voting record. 1 out of the 4 bills that we co-sponsor are led by Republicans.